Hello there, welcome back to my garden. It is Friday, May the 1st, and I delayed today's episode slightly because I wanted to watch sprint qualifying. I felt like if I'd recorded this episode before sprint qualifying, we wouldn't have enough relevance, right? So I got up off the sofa about 5 minutes ago. We don't even have a proper result on F1.com. It is just the live leaderboard that I'm working from for timings. So yeah, very, very fresh. If anyone's since been disqualified, I apologize, but I'm doing this immediately after the end of qualifying, as I just said. So I just had a feeling that the McLarens were on it, and that has proven to be the case. Now, first of all, what a lap by Kimi. I did not see that coming. Based on the first two sessions of sprint qualifying. 0.2, low twos as well, 2.22 behind Lando and ahead of Oscar. So 0.2, 222 thousandths, and Oscar is 239 thousandths behind. So very, very close. Charles is a tenth behind. Max is over 0.2 behind that. George is sort of a half a tenth-ish behind Max, and then a bit of a disaster for Lewis back down in 7th, 7.5 tenths off Lando. I heard he had an issue with the downshift into the final hairpin, I guess. I think that's what I heard, so maybe he had some technical issue there. Great job for Franco and Pierre getting into Q3. Franco out-qualifying Pierre. That's very impressive. Pierre Gasly is a qualifier. So Franco out-qualifying Pierre is very impressive by just under 0.2. And final place was Isaac Hadjar in 9th. About a second behind Max. So really not feeling it this weekend, apparently, Isaac. Still got into Q3, better than a lot of the Red Bull second drivers of the past, so not a disaster. But I think we were sort of expecting Hadjar to be closer to Max as he has done in the first 3 races of the season. So that's the result, technically. Lando just seems to have been on it, right? He has just been on it, like a car bonnet, all weekend so far. All weekend being 2 sessions, as of taping. But he's just seemed like he was really there or thereabouts. That poor time in Q2, in that weird little chicane, that sort of up and over chicane, he kind of balls that up. So that's why he was a second down there. But he still got through, even though it was a second down. Something else that's notable, what about the Audis? Up in 11th and 12th. And Bortoleto out-qualifying Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg is a fast qualifier. So again, great job. I don't actually have the times yet because, like I say, we don't have the actual results official. Let me just check F1.com in case it's updated, because for anything below 10th, I don't have any times yet. Results. Let's have a look. Oh, here we go. It's just come up. Very good. All right. That's helpful. That's very helpful. All right. So let's look at the Audis. Oh, it was close in Q2. Gabriel Bortoleto, a 129.994. Nico, a 130.019. Could not be much closer than that. And then Ollie about a tenth behind in 13th. So, yeah, McLaren are back. 100%. Now, let's not forget that, as far as I'm aware, Mercedes didn't bring much of an upgrade to Miami. Why? They've had 5 weeks. I know the plan was to bring it all in Canada, but that's not especially ambitious, right? That's not really going the full 10 tenths. They've had all this time and they didn't bring really anything of great significance upgrade-wise. And as we know in Formula One, if you're standing still, you're going backwards. And that has been proven. I mean, George, a country mile away. What is that, like 5-6 tenths? Trying to do the maths in my head. Somewhere in that region. I know George isn't great in Miami. Kimi resoundingly out-qualified him last year. I wasn't expecting George to do especially well in Miami, I have to be honest. I think I said that in a previous episode of this pod. But yeah, everyone else, the Ferraris, the McLarens, have definitely caught up with Mercedes, without question in my mind. I think that was a wonder lap from Kimi at the end there. I was surprised that he managed to get, within 0.2. That was very impressive that he managed to do that, because I didn't think, based on the previous 2 qualifying sessions and the practice session earlier, that it was that close. I thought they were really on the back foot. So hats off to Kimi. Something happens to Kimi in Miami. Yeah, he's done amazingly well. And of course, he's done incredibly well all season. Let's not take anything away from him. He was a bit lucky in Japan, let's be honest, with the timing of the crash, the Ollie Behrman Colapinto crash, so he could get a nice cheap pit stop. But not taking anything away, he's the championship leader for a reason. He pulled a wonder lap in Q3 today in sprint qualifying. Now, one thing I'd like to point out. So, fastest lap of the day was the Q3 time of Lando Norris, right? A 1:27.869. Just out of interest, I wanted to know what the fastest lap in qualifying was for the sprint, so pretty much same scenario, nice weather again last year, in 2025, to see how far we're off. And as we know, Kimi qualified on pole for sprint qualifying last year. That was a 1:26.482. So I'll remind you, this year, 1:27.8. So 1:26.4, nearly 5, compared to a 1:27.8. So that's 1.4-ish seconds, right? Yeah, 1.4-ish seconds. That's not far off, right? A 1:27.8, that would have got you about 10th last year. So the cars are about P10 from last year already. Yeah, Fernando did a 1:27, almost 8. This is 7.9. So 1:27.8 last year, and qualifying was a 1:27.8, late 8s this year. So there or thereabouts, within a 10th. So the cars are already up to Fernando's P10 in sprint qualifying last year. That to me is fascinating, because there was a lot of scaremongering like, oh, this is going to be so slow this year. Now, I will caveat that by saying that the battery issues are far less in Miami, because they've got all these big braking zones where they can charge up for free, They are running out of a bit of juice at the end of that long straight, a little bit, but it's not super noticeable. Just sounds like they're kind of winding down a little bit, a second and a half-ish before they apply the brakes. So not the end of the world, nothing like we were seeing in Australia and China, Japan. But I just thought that was particularly interesting. 1.4 seconds off pole last year, and that equates to about P10. So that's not bad, right? With such a change, getting rid of all that underbody aero, going 50-50 hybrid split, getting rid of all the outwash, having to deal with all of that dirty air inboard with the cars, all of the stuff, right? And they're 1.4 off already. Round 4. That's very impressive. Are we going to be on par with last year's cars by the end of this season? Given how quickly they're developing these cars. And you can see how quickly they're developing these cars, because clearly Mercedes didn't and everyone else did, and now they're as fast, if not faster. That is just proof that the development race is going to be huge this year. And all this work that Ferrari did with the filming day and all that kind of other stuff that they were doing in the break, and McLaren's notorious ability to develop a car, and their insane wind tunnel that always correlates. Very, very impressive. And I tell you what, Mercedes need to pull a rabbit out of a hat for Montreal. Now, they've got another break now. They've got another 3 weeks off after this weekend. So, I mean, not off, but, not racing. So that's when they're going to bring the big upgrades in. I still think it's kind of crazy that they had a massive break and they didn't bring anything significant. I guess they thought maybe we need to see the benchmark again to know what we should be bringing. Maybe they were unsure what to bring. I don't know. This is pure speculation. Let's look further down. The Williams, both drivers were almost identical this whole sprint qualifying. Alex Albon out-qualified Carlos Sainz, but their times were almost identical. I noticed that when I was watching the show earlier. In Q1, Alex did a 130.988 and Carlos did a 130.987. 1/1000th difference. And in Q2, Alex Albon did a 130.216 and Carlos Sainz did a 130.224. 8 1,000ths difference, right? Is that right? Yeah, 8. That's nothing. Those two drivers are getting the maximum out of the car and consistently, and are two fantastic drivers to develop that not ideal car. Arvid got through to Q2, Liam Lawson didn't. There wasn't a lot in it, about a 10th and a half getting out of Q1, so, it was close. And Arvid managed to get a couple, 3 tenths in Q2, but finished last in Q2. And once again, Esteban qualifying P18, considering that Ollie Behrman's P13. Esteban did a 131.2 and Ollie did a 130.6. And then you've got the two Cadillacs, Sergio and Valtteri. Sergio out qualifying Valtteri by about half a second. That's a lot. That was a big lap by Sergio. And then Fernando not classified. I mean, if he's not classified, where even is Stroll? He's not even on this list. He didn't even make the list. Maybe they're just upset with him for criticising the cars, because according to my sprint qualifying classification here, he's not even counted. That's funny. Okay, so very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. The big news: McLaren out qualifying Mercedes. Ferrari not doing brilliantly on the soft tyre, but not exactly a mile away. Max doing pretty well getting up to P5. Albeit, 7/10ish off pole. But yeah, very interesting. So, that's the rundown from my perspective. Let's see if there's any news. It's so early after the sprint. Maybe I should wait a little while next time, because I want to make sure that no one's been disqualified or, had a time taken away and therefore fall down the listing. But yeah, as of right now, that is the provisional. So it is Norris, Antonelli, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Hamilton, Colapinto, Hadjar, Gasly, Bortoletto, Hülkenberg, Behrman, Albon, Sainz, Lindblad, Lawson, Ocon, Perez, Bottas, Alonso, and for some reason, not even on the list, Stroll. So tomorrow I might do a little mini one after the sprint and then another mini one after Grand Prix qualifying. But that's a little update on what happened today in qualifying. No crashes, no real controversy, just some very, very fascinating results. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again tomorrow. I've been your host, Jamie Muffett. You can find me on social media for more of this rambling nonsense under my name or F1_Jamie. This is an RPS audio production.